August 16th, 1977. The clock at Graceland ticks past 2 a.m. Outside, Memphis sleeps under a warm summer sky, the mansion's white columns glowing faintly in the moonlight. Inside, the king of rock and roll is restless. Elvis Presley, 42 years old, moves through his home with the weight of 1,000 performances on his shoulders. The house is quiet. Lisa Marie asleep upstairs, the Memphis Mafia gone for the night. Only Ginger Alden, the young woman he loves, is near. Elvis hasn't been feeling well, his body worn from years of tours, pills, and the relentless pace of fame. But he brushes it off, as he always does. In the early morning hours, he turns to Ginger with a tired smile and says the words no one knew would be his last. "I'm going to the bathroom to read." Simple, ordinary, unforgettable. Those final words, spoken in a quiet moment, became the closing line of a legend's life, a haunting reminder that even the greatest leave us without fanfare. The final night. The night of August 15th had been like so many others at Graceland, yet it carried a shadow. Elvis had returned from a dentist appointment earlier that day, his jaw aching from a procedure. He was due to fly to Portland, Maine the next evening to kick off another tour, 16 cities in 20 days. A grueling schedule even for a younger man. But Elvis was determined. He loved the stage, the roar of the crowd, the way music made him feel alive. That evening he played racquetball in the court behind Graceland, laughing with his cousin Billy Smith and girlfriend Ginger Alden. His energy flickered, moments of his old charisma mixed with exhaustion. By midnight he was in the Lisa Marie bedroom, a lavish suite named for his daughter, surrounded by books, a piano, and the clutter of a life lived large. He took a packet of pills, prescriptions for sleep, pain, energy, part of a routine that had spiraled over years. Ginger, 20 years his junior, watched with concern. "I'm not feeling too good," he admitted, but his voice was light, reassuring. "I'll be fine, honey." A quiet moment. Around 2 a.m., Elvis was still awake, his mind racing as it often did in the dark hours. He loved to read, spiritual books, medical texts, anything to quiet his thoughts. Ginger lay on the massive bed, drifting in and out of sleep. Elvis in his pajamas stood and stretched. He'd been reading The Scientific Search for the Face of Jesus, a book that fascinated him in his final months. He needed the bathroom, a private space where he could sit, think, and escape the world. Turning to Ginger, he spoke softly, his Mississippi drawl warm despite his fatigue. "I'm going to the bathroom to read." She murmured, "Okay," half asleep, expecting him to return soon. He smiled, a small gesture of love, and walked through the door to the bathroom suite, a large room with a toilet, sink, and enough space for his books and solitude. The door closed gently behind him. Those were the last words Elvis Presley ever spoke. The silence that followed. Time passed slowly in the quiet of Graceland. Ginger dozed, unaware of the minutes ticking by. Around 7 a.m. she stirred, noticing Elvis hadn't returned. Concern crept in. She called for him, then walked to the bathroom door. It was locked. Knocking brought no answer. Panic rising, she alerted the household. Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager, and others rushed upstairs. They forced the door open and found him, slumped on the floor, unresponsive, his book nearby. Efforts to revive him began immediately, chest compressions, calls to paramedics, but it was too late. At 42, the king was gone. The official cause would later be listed as cardiac arrhythmia, complicated by years of prescription drug use and health struggles. But in that moment, all that mattered was the shock. Elvis Presley, the voice of a generation, was silent. The world stopped. News spread like a storm.
Flocking to pay their last respects to the king of rock and roll.
By noon, radio stations interrupted programming. "Elvis Presley has died," the announcer said, voices breaking. Fans gathered outside Graceland's gates, sobbing, laying flowers, refusing to believe. In Memphis, traffic stopped. Across the world, from London to Tokyo, headlines screamed the unthinkable. President Jimmy Carter issued a statement. "Elvis Presley's death deprives our country of a part of itself." Over 80,000 people attended his funeral, the streets lined with mourners. The man who'd shaken hips and hearts was gone, leaving a void no one could fill. His final words, so ordinary, echoed in the minds of those who loved him. "I'm going to the bathroom to read." Not a grand farewell, not a song lyric, just a man planning a quiet moment that never ended. The weight of the words, those last words became a symbol of Elvis's humanity. He wasn't on stage, cape-wide, voice soaring. He wasn't the king in a jeweled jumpsuit, commanding millions. He was just Elvis, seeking a private moment in a life with no privacy. The simplicity of "I'm going to the bathroom to read" struck a chord. It was something anyone could say, a reminder that legends too live ordinary moments. Fans clung to the story, shared by Ginger in her memoir, Elvis and Ginger, as a window into his final hours. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. In a life of excess, private jets, gold records, screaming crowds, this was Elvis at his core, a man who loved books, needed solitude, and faced the same quiet needs as anyone else. The man behind the myth. Elvis's final years were complex. The 1970s saw him at his peak and his lowest. His Las Vegas shows were triumphant. His Aloha from Hawaii broadcast a global milestone. But health issues, weight gain, prescription dependency, heart strain took their toll. He leaned on pills to sleep, to perform, to cope with the pressure of being Elvis. Yet he never stopped caring. He'd call friends at 3 a.m. to sing gospel, give cars to strangers, plan surprises for Lisa Marie. In his last months, he was engaged to Ginger, dreaming of a simpler future. The bathroom, with its stack of books, was his refuge, a place to escape the noise. Those final words reflected that need for peace, a fleeting hope for one more quiet moment. The legacy of a whisper. The world mourned, but Elvis's voice lived on. His records spun, his films played, his spirit filled Graceland. The Lisa Marie jet, his jumpsuits, his songs, they became relics of a man who changed music forever. But the story of his last words stayed with fans, a quiet counterpoint to his loud life. It wasn't hound dog or suspicious minds. It was a sentence spoken in love, in fatigue, in the stillness of a Memphis night. Ginger carried the weight of hearing it, sharing it years later to honor his memory. Fans, reading her words, felt closer to him. Not the icon, but the man. The king's final moment wasn't a stage bow, it was a closed door, a book in hand, a life slipping away. Closing on August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley spoke his last words and stepped into eternity. "I'm going to the bathroom to read." In that ordinary sentence, the world lost a legend, but found his heart. The gates of Graceland closed, the crowds wept, but his music played on. The king's voice fell silent, but his legacy roared louder than ever. From a Tupelo shack to a Memphis mansion, Elvis gave everything: his talent, his love, his soul. And in his final moment, he was just a man seeking peace. The world said goodbye to the king, but his story, his whisper, lives forever.